Good morning. It is 8:38, and in the studio with me is Revelstoke local Tony Morabito, who will be running for council after many years of giving back to the community. Now it's time to give back in a different way. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Shaun.
Now let's start with this. Now, Tony, you're a fairly reserved guy, and you're pretty quiet. Not necessarily in opinion, but you're quiet in general. But I think this is a great platform for you to kind of shine in a different way than you usually do. So let's start with Tony. Why did you decide to finally throw your name into the hat?
Well, I was asked to run in the last election, which I turned down. Still working and having some medical issues. This time I decided to run because I think I can help the council make reasonable decisions on the issues at hand.
So what are some of the issues that you foresee right now as a major problem that need to be addressed?
Well, certainly the DCCs need to be addressed, as well as the sewage lagoon is, I think, a priority.
Now, when you have these issues in front of you, and we all have our opinions about them on social media, at the coffee shops, but how would you implement a new plan moving forward with those? How do you see those things moving forward in a progressive way that doesn't burden the taxpayers to a great deal, but also doesn't burden those that have to pay into the DCC fees?
I'd like to sit down with senior council and explore possible cost savings. I think there's some opportunities in the snow removal could be more efficient, although the crews do a good job, but the problem is parking on the street and people not moving and ignoring the signs and not moving to allow the crews to do their job.
So how do you view Revelstoke in the next 5 years? What would you like to see?
The continued development, as I think we need the tax base. Generally, I don't like to see it come too fast. It should be progressive. And
so that's a big question for people is some people like living in a small town because they like the slower pace of things. They don't like rapid change, but they expect change nonetheless. Where do you land on the sliding scale of progress and change?
Well, I'd like to see it happen in a planned, slower manner. I don't want to see a boom and bust type situation where there's a lot of work and activity in the first few years and then a crash.
So if you were to be on council, what are your goals in that time frame? What would you want to leave behind as your legacy, whether it was just a 4-year term or turned into an 8-year term? What would you like to see accomplished?
Well, I'd like to see the infrastructure problems taken care of, such as the decision on the lagoon and the upgrades to the water and sewer. I'd like to leave the community in a better position than we are today.
I mean, that sewage lagoon is a big topic. It will be brought up, I'm sure, at the All Candidates Forum, and everyone's going to have their opinion, and I think everyone's opinion is always, well, we want to see it in a great place. That's just an easy answer. But if it's a $30 million project, presumably, that's a big feat for us to deal with. And while there will be government grants, I'm sure of that, somewhere along the line, it could be fully covered or it could be partially covered. We don't know. So we still have to come up with the dollars somewhere along the line. And it's a matter of finding that right balance. But no matter what, it seems like any decision that is made on this, someone is going to feel burnt by it.
True.
How are you going to be able to gauge which side takes the burn? Because someone's going to feel it, whether it's us as the taxpayers or those paying the hefty DCC fees.
Well, Shaun, nobody likes taxes. Don't see putting a further burden on the residential taxpayer or the existing businesses. I think the majority of the burden is going to fall on the developers.
We've had some pretty controversial moments over the last 4 years. I think probably the number one, I would assume, is the highway. That was a big source of contention for a lot of people. It split the town up. Well, there is that rule of thumb, though, and this isn't just a Revelstoke thing. This is all over the world. If you don't vote, you can't whine. That's kind of the rule of thumb.
True.
Now, with that said, that was a big deal. It made a lot of people mad at one another over a strip mall. You are pretty good at social media. You figured it out. You used to comment quite a bit on Rooney's paper. Now, if memory serves me, you like to see things happen. You wanted to see some growth up there. What were the positives that you saw about it, and what were the things that afterwards you saw, yeah, that may not have worked, that could have been detrimental to us?
The positives I seen about it was that it was a unique development originally on the highway that wouldn't have hurt the landscape in the downtown core, no matter how many stories you built. Having another shopping mall in Revelstoke is not a bad idea, whether it be on the highway or downtown. I mean, the detractors would have been that it may have hurt possibly one of the pharmacies. One has to look at the jobs and that it would have created and the tax revenues that we would have got from it.
So as we are moving forward in this campaign, what are some of the qualities that you just have naturally, or what you've learned through your years as a father and grandfather, or as a worker? What do you think that you can bring to the table? What are some of your strengths that you're confident that you think will be a good source? So,
well, I think my work experience, for one, would help me and guide me in some of these decisions. I've worked both in the public and private sector, so I understand both sides of it.
What did you do for a majority of your working career?
Well, I started out with the old Department of Highways here in Revelstoke, highway maintenance and construction, and that's where I got my background. When privatization was happening, I decided to quit my job and go out in the public sector, and I ended up in the logging industry.
So you got a good, well-rounded idea of how things flow and go when it comes to that type of work.
That's right.
All right, so that's good for you to have to bring to the table. What's something that you would be nervous about by being on council?
Well, I think I got broad shoulders, that I'm not nervous about taking flack for any decisions I make, because I believe I will have a well-rounded understanding of the issues, and I'll make the tough decisions that I have to make.
Now, when did you move to Revelstoke?
In 1952.
You've been here many, many moons. You've been here.
Been here for a while.
So you've seen a lot of changes, a lot of mayors, a lot of councils.
Yes, yeah.
I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Out of all of the mayors that you've seen in your entire time, who's one mayor that has always stood out to you as that was a great mayor?
I think Arvid Lundell.
A good question and good answer. You're a little bit more shy than most. We've got some colorful characters that are running. The gift of the gab is half the battle. Now, for someone that's like you, that's a little bit more quiet, you keep to yourself, you're not on the spotlight, you don't take the spotlight, i.e. like people like me. Now, that doesn't mean that your shy personality is weak. It could mean that you have the ability to sit in strength and speak when you need to speak. How do you feel about going up against those that are maybe, we'll call them a little bit more colorful?
I'll speak up when I have to. I'm not nervous about that. I think I can spar with them. I usually mull over issues before I speak. I won't do it off the top of my head.
So let's not take the shy, quiet for weakness.
No.
Is there anything that you think is really important to touch base on, to share right now, that maybe those that are going to be listening, you want them to know that maybe we otherwise wouldn't know? Whether it's about you or about an idea that you want to see for the future for Revelstoke.
I think I'd like to make Revelstoke residents feel comfortable with my decisions. Of course, we all do, but understanding that not everyone will be happy. I'd like to make the correct decision, as you know. That's about it, Sean.
So if you were doing something to your house, maybe a renovation, how long would it take for you to make that choice and then finally execute it? Would you look at every angle before you go, okay, we're going to take the siding off the house?
I'm currently in renos at my house, painting and new floors and what have you, but I'll mull it over and weigh the costs before I make the decision.
All right, so we've been chatting with Revelstoke local Tony Morabito, who will be running for council, and he's looking forward to the questions at the All Forums or the All Candidates Forum that'll be coming up. And Tony, thanks for coming in. I know that you're a little shy and a little bit more reserved than most, and I think it's important that we get your voice out there, even though you're a little bit shy, but not when it comes to your opinion.
That's true, Sean. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.